Welcome back. This morning, President Trump is returning to one of his go-to political targets. Fed Chair Jerome Powell now threatening to fire Powell if he stays on the Fed Board of Governors after his term as chair expires on May 15th, pointing to this probe into Powell's handling of the renovation at the central bank headquarters.
So whether it's incompetence, corruption, or both, I think you have to find out. I really do. I think you have to find out.
So you're not going to drop the probe?
No, I'm not playing. I have to find out.
And he said he's not leaving if, you know.
Well, then I'll have to fire him, okay? If he's not leaving on time, I've held back firing him. I've wanted to fire him, but I hate to be controversial, you know? I want to be uncontroversial.
An official representing the Trump administration even acknowledged in court that there was no criminal evidence of wrongdoing. Their investigation has reportedly stalled, but federal prosecutors still made a surprise visit yesterday to tour the construction site, a source tells MS Now. It all could make the process to replace Powell trickier because Republican Senator Thom Tillis has vowed to block any new Fed nominee until the DOJ wraps up that probe. And joining us now is Axios chief economic correspondent Neil Irwin. Neil, let's start with those comments we just heard from the president after we learned DOJ prosecutors made this surprise visit to this Fed construction site and were turned away. Why do you think the president just won't let this one go?
Yeah, it feels like there's a real schism right now between Senate Republicans who just want to confirm Kevin Warsh, get him in office, and have a new leadership at the Federal Reserve, versus the president and the Justice Department and Jeanine Pirro, the U.S. attorney for D.C., who are trying to kind of apply vengeance and really punish Jay Powell for not giving the president what he wants in terms of interest rate policy. And how that gets resolved is a really interesting thing. You know, this Powell's term as chair is up a month from today, so this is an imminent thing. You know, if they can just confirm him and get Kevin Warsh in place, Powell will no longer be running the Fed, but instead they're kind of digging in on this investigation.
I want to play a bit more of what the president is saying about Powell. Let's listen.
Jerome Too Late Powell, he's a disaster. Here's a man who took this little tiny building and a couple of other little tiny complex, and he's spending more than $3 billion. I want to know who the contractor is, because that contractor is making billions of dollars, perhaps. So he's doing a bad job. He should be lowering interest rates.
As we mentioned, North Carolina Senator Thom Tillis, a Republican, has vowed to block any new Fed nominee until the DOJ wraps up that criminal probe into Powell and the Fed renovation. So what does it mean for when Kevin Warsh has his confirmation hearing next week?
Look, Senator Tillis has dug in. He has said he is not going to move this nomination until this matter is resolved. And Jay Powell has said he will not step down as a Fed governor until it is thoroughly and fully resolved. So they both kind of put a very clear marker down. Now, the president says he will fire Powell from his role as a governor. Keep in mind, we already have a case before the Supreme Court over Trump's effort to fire Lisa Cook, another governor. So presumably the resolution of that case would determine whether the president can find a kind of ginned-up cause to fire Powell as a governor. It's really a logjam. Like, there has to be an off-ramp. You talk to Senate Republicans, you talk to kind of financial officials in the Trump administration. They see this as something that will get worked out, that will get resolved. But every day we have events like this attempt to investigators showing up at the Fed building unannounced is a suggestion that the Justice Department is not really playing ball and is really wanting to take this to the end of the line.
I can't help but wonder if Chair Powell decides to stay on the Board of Governors simply because of these new threats by the president. He has held firm in his integrity throughout all of this, and it all comes as new financial disclosures reveal Warsh, the new nominee, could be the richest incoming chair in recent history. His massive portfolio totaling somewhere between $135 and $226 million. And that's not to mention another $192 million held with his wife, Jane Lauder, the heiress to the Estee Lauder cosmetics fortune. Neil, help us understand why this raises questions about potential conflicts of interest.
Well, if you look at Kevin Warsh's financial disclosures, since he left the Fed Board of Governors about 15 years ago, he's been very active investing in venture funds and a bunch of private companies, dozens and dozens and dozens of individual holdings of different assets, presumably through different funds that he invests in. And he's made a lot of money. He's been working with Stan Druckenmiller, the legendary investor, made more than $10 million last year as advising Druckenmiller. So he's done very well for himself, made a great deal of money. And that long list of assets, he says he will dispose of them and no longer have that as a conflict of interest, but it's a complicated set of assets to untangle. And again, if he's going to be the Fed chair a month from now, that's a lot of assets and conflicts of interest to untangle.
And I'm sure he'll be asked all about it at his hearing on Tuesday. Neil Irwin, thanks for giving us that preview and helping us identify what to watch for.